Hey folks, I'm Eric Garland. Welcome back to Stalking Eagle Systems. Today is June 23rd, 2026. I just had a short video and I've already kind of been through it, done a little bit, so I can give you the best of the best. Hopefully I don't miss any good pieces of information. If I do, or if you feel like I did, then put it in the comments what you think I missed, and I will try to do an update video or uh, have some follow-up on the content of which you identify. But anyways, we are looking at the switch statement. So ultimately, this is what I plan to show you how to make today, is an indicator that will give you different plots based on a bar's open and close. Okay, so if it's a bullish candle, then we want to plot the bottom, the low. And if it's a bearish candle, then we want to plot at the high. Okay, so we're going to do that. We're going to accomplish that using a switch statement. We just so happen to have here, if it's a doji candle where the open is equal to the close, we are going to plot a blue plot, such as here and here. Okay, bear with me one moment. I'll get the chart together and then we will get started. Okay, so here we are, we're back. We have an empty screen, we have an empty chart, fresh to work with, and we have the program that I'd already got set up that we will use this as our template. But one of the things I do want to show you is, and I found it out here recently, so two things. One thing is that if you have an error, so right now I hit compile and you hear the ding, no errors. If I come over here to this random study here, if I type something random in that will not compile, I'll hit compile. Of course, there'll be an error. And then I'll go to my program tutorial switch that does not have an error. And then I'll hit compile again. And you still have an error. You see this time is colored in red. It's saying that the error is in my custom indicator 3D, 3. Now, when you come over here onto this chart, you see it's in brown. It's referencing that the error is on this indicator. But that is to say that with an indicator that you're programming, if you have an error in another indicator, in another script, the way that NinjaScript compiles and makes a DLL, you can't have an error in another program without it affecting your current program. So you may need to move it over to another bin or some type of archive folder if you have programs that are kind of vestigial, that you are incomplete and you're not really going to do anything with. Okay, I tend to have lots of programs like that. I may learn something new and I just leave the program, and I really should delete it, but this system almost forces you to delete it, which I think is not a bad idea, but that's something that you must know. Okay, so now we come back over to tutorial switch. So this is one other big tip, big thing I learned here, is that if you start an indicator, I'm going to make a new indicator. We'll just hit next, next, next. Okay, if I was to start in the program section here, if I was to start, we're going to look at like the swing of the bar. If I just type in swing and then I hit in parentheses, I get errors. I don't get IntelliSense telling me what swing is. If I hover over swing, nothing happens. But with a clean chart with a correct syntax program, if I hit F3 for compile, I get no errors. Now if I come here and I type in swing, and now you see I get IntelliSense to pop up to tell me, you know, what's the overload, what are the methods, what does it return. So I get a lot of good information here that you don't get if you don't hit compile before you start the program. So keep that in mind. That should be very helpful. I know I personally get eager when I come and I sit down and get ready to write an indicator or write script. I will just come and start typing away. But if you don't hit F3 first, you won't get access to those, to the IntelliSense features. Okay, so again, using the switch case, we're going to use it in the on-bar update. we are going to have a variable. It's going to be a string type called bar type. And in easy language, bar type is a reserved word. Here it's not. The reserved words are in blue. You see those in blue, or reserved words, classes, whatever. All right, but this is nothing reserved, so we can use that. All right, so here I'm going to show you how to do this, and I'm going to show you the faults that you can have. All right, so if our close of the current bar is greater than the open of the current bar, then bar type is equal to bull. It's a bullish candle. Okay. Else, we'll just say bar type is equal to bear. Now that does leave us with a problem, but we'll get to it later. I'll go ahead and hit compile. It's not a bad idea to compile as you go through from one block of code to the next, so that you don't get 5 blocks in and then turns out you had 3 errors that are cascading, have a cascading effect. So now what we're going to do is we're going to use a switch statement. Okay, you see it's in blue. A lot of words you think would be capitalized reserved words, they are not. So just make sure that it shows up blue that is a reserved word. So we're going to switch the bar type, and then we'll use our curly brackets. And so if it's, now for switch, we use the case word. So case of bear, we're going to do what? We're going to take plot 1, and we need to know what the plot is, what the series name for the plot is. Otherwise, the title of the plot is plot 1. But in order to see what the series name is, we go here, and then we can see that plot series, that's the plot 1. It uses values of 0. So it's called plot 1. Plot 1 of the current index is equal to, now if it's a bear, we're going to plot at the high. So we're going to put a high of the current index. Okay, and then now we're going to adjust the color, the brush. So I think it's plot brushes, and then we use the index of the plot brushes of the 0th plot and of the 0th, or the current index of that plot, is equal to brushes dot red. Okay, now case of bull, plot 1 of 0 is equal to, we're going to plot it at the low 0. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing, plot brushes of 0 at 0 is equal to brushes dot blue. Okay, now we have an error here. I'll show you. Hit F3 to compile. Control cannot fall through from one case label. Okay, now in easy language, you can do this. Case, 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 and the switch statement will find the first case, and when it's true, it automatically breaks out of this switch block. Okay, C# doesn't do that, or with NinjaScript it doesn't do it. I believe it's a C# function though. You have to explicitly break out of this control of this case. Okay, so now we'll verify. No issues, come back. And so we get lots of plots, Actually, we're going to change this from the green, verify or compile, and then refresh. Okay, so we have green for the bullish candles, red for the bearish candles. Now, somebody may be very keen and say, yes, Eric, well, not all candles are either bearish or bullish. There are also sideways candles. There's dojis. Okay, so we need to put in one other bit of logic here. So else, instead of else being bear, we need to explicitly say if the open is over the close, then it's a bear. So else if open is greater than the, is greater than the close, then we have a bar type equaling the bear. Now, that works because we addressed the bull and we addressed the bear, but we have a compile error. Why do we have a compile error? Use of unassigned local variable bar type. We are trying to use an unassigned local variable called bar type. Well, we declared it here. We did assign it. We assigned it here, or we assigned it here. The problem is that this is exclusionary, so we have this case or this case. These are not the only two cases for bar type. There is also the case of a doji. Okay, so we need to say, and we'll have to put that in a block. So we'll say else. We will say bar type is equal to doji. Now it has a name now. Now it has a value. However, it actually doesn't end up getting used because we still only did bear or bull. And so if we have a doji here, then let's see, refresh. There we go. Yeah, now when we have a doji here, it doesn't assign any value for a plot or for a plot color because we didn't use the case. We didn't have a control for it. So we're going to copy this, paste that there, make a control of doji. And so we're going to plot at the open because the open is going to be equal to the close. So it should plot it right smack dab there at the open and close. Brushes, we'll make that blue. Verify or compile. So used to easy language when we verify. And then we'll refresh. Now when we refresh, we should have blue dots come up here. Uh-oh. Where are my blue dots? Oh, yes. You see? And that's one of the things you have to love it, you have to hate it, but you have to own it. That programming is it's somewhat detail oriented, right? So when you talk about this is lowercase, if we make it a capital, then it doesn't do anything. Okay? Lots of errors, okay? And even here when we're comparing strings, we called it doji. Now, you can call it doji, you can call it doja cat, you can call it onomatopoeia, you can call it whatever you want to. It's just gonna match it up. So, it's helpful for the programmer to make it make sense, but the computer doesn't care. It's just going to match it. And so if you mint doji, but you type dami, then it's not going to compute. It's not going to be equal. Okay, so just make sure that you are paying attention to the details. And if you have errors or issues, go back and work through it, one block at a time. Put in print statements for debugging, but you'll figure it out. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and compile there again, and then we'll verify or refresh, and you see we have our blue dots popping up for the doji there, and then you have the green dots plots for the bottom of the bulls, red plots for the top of the bears. And that's all I have for you today. So I hope you got a little something out of that. Again, using C# for the NinjaScript editor so that we can make NinjaTrader indicators. And I will have more indicators coming. I will have algos, certainly a ton of indicators, algos for price action, order flow. Subscribe to the channel so you can be notified when the new indicators drop. Hopefully it's different than what other folks have to offer. I do know one thing for sure. I probably write a ton of code. I write a lot of code. So I probably will have something that you may have not quite seen before, or I'll just have a bunch of it in one place. So it'll be like a super dictionary. or collection of indicators and whatnot. But as always, folks, code confident, trade calm. I'm Eric with Stalking Eagle Systems. I'm out. Peace.